5 years ago, I released a video called Flicking, which demonstrates the way that I knit. It's kind of a unique way of knitting. There are people who hold the working yarn in their left hand, and they're called continental knitters for the most part. And there are people who hold the working yarn in their right hands, and they're called American or English knitters. And flicking is a way, if you've watched my videos before, you know exactly how I knit, but flicking is a way of holding the working yarn in your right hand without ever letting go of the right needle when you're wrapping the stitch. Continental knitters or pickers never let go of the needle, usually, and people who hold the working yarn in their right hand typically do, so flicking is kind of a different thing. Now, the reason that I'm making this video is because that video has been out for 5 years, and I'll give you a link to the video if you click the little eye in the upper right hand corner. The video's been out for a while, and it's a good explanation of how flicking works, but of course, I have had 5 years of questions on that video since I released it, and I want to address some of those because it's really the same questions over and over again. Now, before we get into that, I want to talk about the sponsor of this video. This video is sponsored by Knitter's Pride and their Nova Platina Cubics needles. Actually, I'll show you the package of them. These are, it's noisy. I'm going to show you this one. This is my own personal set. These are great needles. This is an interchangeable needle set with 7 different needle sizes from US 6 up to US 11 or 4.0 millimeters up to 8 millimeters. And the great thing about an interchangeable set is you pick the needle size you need and then you choose the cord size that you need, and that gives you, you always know you have the right needles for almost any project at home. And these are especially nice. I'll give you a close-up of these. These are especially nice. They're Platina chrome-plated needles with a nice long taper. Great all-purpose needles. My own personal set, definitely a go-to set of mine. I'm using them in my current recreational knitting project, which I brought as an example to work some of the stitches on. Let's go ahead and take a close-up look at the needles before we get started. Knitter's Pride always gives us this beautiful needle case, and we have the needles and then all of the cords and keys in the back. And it's a cool zipper case, and one of my sets is missing because they are right here. I'm using them. And what you're going to do is I actually need to get a little key out. So I don't want to take it out of the package in the back. What you'll do is you'll pick the needle size that you need and then just, let me take this off first. Insert the cord or the key into the base of the cord and take the needle size you need and just screw it on to the cord length you need and use the key to hand tighten it. And you end up with these needles with this really smooth, beautiful join. The needles are chrome plated. They're beautiful and shiny with this long taper and this nice point. It's a sharp point, but even in this project right now, I'm knitting double-stranded, and it's not so sharp that it's splitting the stitches. It's a good all-purpose needle, all-purpose point. Okay, so I want to get to the questions that people ask all the time on flicking, and I decided to use this project. I'll give you a link to this project that I'm knitting in the video description field and on my website. It's a gradient cowl by Purl Soho. The first thing people ask me the most is, how do I hold my working yarn? And I'm going to answer, and it's, I wish it was a different answer, because I hold my working yarn like this. And I know most people can't make a little fist with their pinky finger to hold the working yarn like that. Most people's fingers would cramp up. I don't know why I do. I have been knitting for over 40 years now, and it's just kind of a thing I do. That's how I keep tension. If someone were to ask me, how should I hold my working yarn? I'm going to say this. Take your pinky and grab the yarn and go up and around like that. So you have either a single or a double wrap on your pinky. Or you can wrap more times if you're a loose knitter who needs to get it tighter. So that's how most people should hold the working yarn. You can keep your pinky relaxed and you don't have to keep it in a little tiny fist like this. Of course, anything you end up doing is your own personal way, but most people find it comfortable to do this with their, for tension on their pinky. Now, the next thing I get asked all the time is, how do you keep the yarn on your finger? And this is what I imagine is happening. I'm going to slip the first stitch to get going because I am knitting a real pattern here. Let me get a couple of stitches in. Okay. I imagine what is happening, people are asking that question, is because their tension is loose, and then when they go to knit a stitch, their yarn is way down here and not up on their finger where they can easily just get the stitch in there like this. And if you want to be able to keep it on your finger in a location that's easy to reach and get around the needle. And to do that, you have to be able to maintain tension with the working yarn. And again, there's my tiny little fist I make with my pinky finger to keep the tension. Until you get the tension, you're never going to be able to keep the yarn on your finger like this. And that, it's not an easy answer. I wish there was kind of a silver bullet answer to make that happen, but you just have to be able to maintain good tension to keep it up on your finger in the right spot. Now, the last question, of the three most common questions that I get all the time is, I'm learning how to flick, but I'm finding that I'm having to use my elbows a lot to get the needle up around, to get the yarn up around the needle. And I think I've actually figured this out. This has been a mystery to me for a while, why this is happening, because I always think, well, just drop your elbows, just don't do that. But there's more of an answer to this. So instead of holding the working yarn around your finger like this, it comes out of the stitch and behind your finger, and then in front of your finger and to the ball of yarn. So from the stitch to the back of your index finger. That's the way you want to hold it. That's the way that it's going, it seems counterintuitive, but that's the way that's going to give you the smallest movements for the biggest bang, right? If you have the yarn the other way, where it's coming from the stitch around the front of your index finger and down the back, it seems like this would be easier. I don't know why it's not. Someone would have to really understand like bones and muscles and tendons and everything else. But when you do it this way, you do actually have to, kind of move around in crazy ways to make it happen, and it shouldn't. I'm actually lifting my elbow kind of a lot to get the yarn around. It's a lot harder. Anyway, my point is, let me show you the right way again. This seems like it'd be easier because it's closer to the tips of the needle, but you want the working yarn to come out of the stitch around the back of your index finger. Keep good tension and it'll stay up on this part of your finger. Okay, those are the three questions that I get the most often. I get questions on that flicking video almost every day, and I feel bad that I answer each one of them as much as I can, but of course with the volume that there are, I don't think people are going back through and looking at the answers that are already there. But no problem, that's why I make videos. I can address things like this. Now, the last answer I have that answers almost all of the other questions I get, because I get heartbreaking emails and comments from people who are like, I am really trying this, I really want to make this work, but I'm frustrated, it's not working. It takes practice. And I know that's an easy thing to say, but it really takes practice. And I'm saying this as someone who decided to knit this way 20 years ago. I decided, I'm not letting go of the right needle anymore. I'm going to make this work. I had never seen anyone knit like that before, so I essentially made it up. I didn't make it up in the history of humans, but I made it up in my own mind to knit like this. And I committed to an entire blanket, a sofa throw blanket. I told myself I am never letting go of the right-hand needle, and I knit that whole blanket that way. And I told myself, if when I finish this blanket, I don't like knitting this way, I don't have to do it anymore, but I do have to do it for this whole blanket. So the only reason I say that is not because I'm patting myself on the back or something. I'm the kind of person that does really well at making commitments to myself like that. But the point is that if you're thinking that you're going to knit a swatch and really have this style of knitting down, it's unlikely that you are. It's going to take more practice than that. That's the reason that I mentioned that. Anyway, I hope this is a good follow-up. If you have more questions, I'm happy to give them an answer or maybe even make another video. Good luck.